Today I thought we'd do some grid abstract, really nice and easy. We are going to use 300 grams cold pressed watercolor paper. I've got some thick tape to tape down my watercolor paper. I've also got this thin tape which I'm going to use to put the crissy-crossy kind of patterns on to make it into a grid. So I've done quite a few of these kind of grid art things, and I thought it'd be really nice to do a blue, green and gold, and this is the end result. So this is what we're going to be aiming for. I'm going to be using my MeiLiang watercolors, and I thought the colors we'd go for are the turquoise and some of the blues and maybe this green. This is my favorite green. You can see here that I have nearly used all of that up. And I thought we'd use some gold paint. We're going to be using this lovely Lumiere bright gold paint, lovely acrylic paint that is. And I've got a stencil which we're going to use a sponge, and then we are going to use some paint pens. So I've got these paint pens which are very good to use, loads of lovely colours in there, and also a bit of white acrylic paint pen and maybe some gold. Okay, so we're going to get started. So I've grabbed the thicker tape and I'm just putting it around the edges to make a lovely border, roughly getting the same amount of distance onto the page. Then I'm going to grab the thinner tape and I'm going to divide the page into fours. Initially into fours, roughly putting that down and then dividing it again and making 8 little squares. So you could ruler this out if you want to be particular and get it very equal, but I have just done it by eye. So securing that tape down, and now I am having a look at the colours I'm going to use. So I'm starting off with this lovely turquoise colour. And I've got a flat brush here and I'm sort of like throwing paint on, not worrying too much about it, just getting that paint onto the page. Now this colour is a Prussian blue, so I am just adding that into the negative spaces there. And then I've got the lovely green, and I'm just looking where there is no paint and adding that paint into those areas. So I've grabbed a round brush now, and I've got that Prussian blue again, and using the edge of the brush, I'm sort of like flattening it down and making these lovely shapes. Being random, putting them wherever I feel, and then I've got the turquoise and doing exactly the same thing again. So I've let that dry. I've got my stencil, I've got my Lumiere gold paint here, and I've got my sea sponge, and I am going to put that stencil onto the page and then grab some paint with my sponge and sponge it through onto that stencil. Trying to hold the stencil down so that it doesn't move. I have smudged it a little bit in places, but hey ho, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter to me, it may do to you, and I suggest you take down that stencil if you really want to get a perfect kind of edge. So I've got these Artistro pens here, and I am just going to draw some shapes onto the lighter colour. This is a dark sort of sea green kind of colour, and I'm just going up and down, whatever I think really. So just doing the same shapes in all of these squares. So if you don't like blues, greens and golds, you can choose any colour you want. Same principle, just get the same kind of colours from the same side of the colour wheel, add your metallic paint, get a similar paint pen, and then just add your marks on top. So because I've got a few smudges around that gold paint there, I decided that I'd outline them just to make the little round dots pop off the page there, and it just defines them a little bit better. So once I've finished with that paint pen, I've decided that I want to use a gold uniball broad pen and add some lovely golden marks onto the page. So I've grabbed that pen and I've decided that I am just going to do some lines on those sort of like darker shapes that I used when I used the side of the brush, and just add those lines on there. Just makes it pop a little bit. and then some lines over the page with some little round balls in there. So a bit like a chain going across a page. And I'm just doing that wherever I feel, wherever I can see there's a little bit of space. I think to myself, well, let's fill that space up with some pattern. And then I've grabbed the white Posca pen, white acrylic paint pen. I don't think that one's a Posca pen, an acrylic paint pen, and I'm adding some dots onto the darker colour. Now you could see that I was struggling a little bit with that paint pen. I'm trying to get the colour out, so sort of like getting it onto the side of my page and trying to pump it out so that I get the colour. And then I'm just adding some more marks just across the page. It just brightens it up, the white Posca pen. So where you see a dark area and you think, oh, that looks a bit moody, well then grab your white, add a lighter colour, and it just makes it pop. So you can see how easy this is. So I hope you like this. I hope you get to try. If you like this, maybe you'll like, maybe you'll subscribe, maybe you'll leave me a comment, which would be really, really great. I love hearing from you. I love hearing about your art journeys and what you've been up to, whether you're going to try this, what colours you're going to use, any questions you have, please feel free to contact me. I'll come straight back to you. I've switched up now to a blue gel pen and just adding some additional marks there. So it's been one of these pictures where I am doing it and I just really don't want to stop. I don't want to come to the end. So I'm just trying to find every little space to fill it with some kind of colour. So this gel pen is doing that for me, just adding that lovely, sort of like a royal blue kind of colour, and it's just popping off the page there. So you might not have the same kind of paints, the same kind of pens, the same kind of colours that I have, but I wouldn't worry about it. Look at what you have got and utilise that, and I'm sure you'll be happily surprised at the outcome. So don't worry about the things you haven't got, just use things you have, and I think you'll have a very positive, happy outcome. So unfortunately I lost a bit of my video. I lost the bit where I'm actually peeling off the tape, which is unfortunate because for these kind of videos, that's a really nice thing to watch. So this is the finished article when I've peeled away all of that tape. I heated it up with a hairdryer just to make sure that it'll peel off nicely and wouldn't rip my page. And I'm so happy with these. I think this might be the best grid art I've ever done. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with me and let me know how you get on. I would love to hear, and have a great day. Okay then, see you soon. Bye.